A well-dressed man, sitting against a wall, his head resting on the stone, his legs crossed. He looks asleep, but he is dead. And in his pocket, months later, someone will find a tightly rolled scrap of paper with 2 words in Persian. It is finished. It's 1948. He carries no identification. The labels have been cut from his clothes. And for 74 years, no one will know who he is. Stay with me, because this case did eventually get a name. But its most unsettling part is still unanswered. Let's take it step by step. On December 1st, 1948, at 6:30 in the morning, police were called after a couple discovered a man's body on the beach at Somerton Park, near Glenelg, about 11 kilometers southwest of Adelaide, in South Australia. He lay with his head against the seawall, his legs stretched out, his feet crossed. When they arrived, police found the man propped against the wall, a half-smoked, unlit cigarette resting on his collar. He appeared to be of British origin, well-dressed, his clothes dry, with no sign of injury or a struggle. Here, the first strange details begin. He carried no identification, and the labels had been removed from his clothing. Why would anyone bother to cut every single label from a man's clothes? The most logical answer is that they wanted him to be impossible to identify. The autopsy only deepened the mystery. The examination of the Somerton Man revealed something striking. There was no evidence of a cause of death. No cause, no name, no labels. Police needed a lead, and months later one arrived. In what several accounts have called a secret pocket, though it seems designed to hold a pocket watch, they found a tiny scrap of paper, tightly rolled. Unfolded, it carried 2 words printed in an elaborate typeface: Tamam Shud. A reporter recognized the language. Frank Kennedy, a police reporter for the Adelaide Advertiser, identified the words as Persian and phoned police to suggest they find a copy of a book of poetry, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Written in the 12th century, the work became popular in Australia during the war years thanks to a much-loved translation by the English writer Edward Fitzgerald. Here we should be precise because there's a famous confusion. Tamam was often misspelled as Taman in early reports, and that error has been repeated ever since. Although the words that close the Rubaiyat are Tamam Shud, it has often been quoted as Tamam Shud due to a spelling mistake in press coverage or police reports that stuck. The book existed in countless editions, but routine inquiries to libraries, publishers and bookshops turned up nothing matching the typeface of the Somerton Man's copy. Then a citizen came forward with something extraordinary. Most accounts say the book was found in a convertible parked on Jetty Road, in Glenelg, either in the rear footwell or on the back seat. A copy of the book finally turned up inside a nearby car. Its last page had been torn out, and the tear matched the scrap found on the man. This was the book, and it held more secrets. On the inside back cover, detectives could read, from the impressions left by earlier writing, a local phone number, another unidentified number, and text that looked like a coded message. That code remains unsolved. The text has never been deciphered or interpreted in any way that satisfies the case authorities. Police believed it was a code, but it has never been cracked. And then there was the phone number. It was unlisted, but authorities traced it to a young trainee nurse who lived near Somerton Beach. Originally known by the pseudonyms Justin and Teresa Johnson, she was later publicly identified as Jessica Ellen Thompson. Reluctantly, the nurse admitted she had indeed given a copy of the Rubaiyat to a man she'd known during the war. She gave them his name, Alfred Boxall. Police thought they had their answer. The dead man had to be Boxall. But the case twisted again. In July 1949, Boxall was found alive in Sydney, and the last page of his copy of the Rubaiyat was intact, the words Tamam Shud still in place. Boxall worked in the maintenance section of the Randwick bus depot and knew of no connection between himself and the dead man. Boxall was alive. The theory collapsed, and this is where the case became legend. A man with no name, an impossible code, cut labels, a date marked by the Cold War. It all seemed lifted from a spy novel. The Cold War had begun only 2 years earlier, in 1947. 2 sites near Adelaide might have drawn the interest of spies: the Radium Hill uranium mine and the military installations at the Woomera test range. For decades, people said he was a Soviet spy. But as we'll see, the truth turned out to be far more human. First, a detail that still raises goosebumps today. Jessica Thompson, who lived near Glenelg, was questioned in connection with the case. Her phone number was in the book. Not long after, she gave birth to a boy with the same rare ear feature as the unidentified man. That detail fueled the theory that the dead man could be the father of her son. But decades later, science would say otherwise, because the case, against all odds, did reach a resolution. Although much of the DNA was degraded, in February 2018, a team at the University of Adelaide obtained a high-definition analysis of mitochondrial DNA from a hair sample belonging to the Somerton Man. They found it belonged to haplogroup H4A1A1OA, carried by only 1% of Europeans. And then, the name. On July 26, 2022, Professor Derek Abbott announced that he and genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick had determined the man was Carl Charles Webb, an electrical engineer and instrument maker born on November 16, 1905, in Footscray, a suburb of Melbourne. Abbott said the DNA identification came from strands of hair caught in the plaster death mask made by South Australia police in the late 1940s. How did they do it? To narrow the pool of candidates, Abbott and Fitzpatrick entered the DNA into the genealogy database GEDmatch. After finding a match with a distant cousin, they built a family tree of some 4,000 people. Then they used archival records to search for individuals whose lives matched what was known about the Somerton Man. And there was evidence beyond DNA. Webb's sister, Frida, was married to Thomas Keane. The name T. Keane, or Keane, appeared on several items in the Somerton Man's suitcase, discovered at Adelaide's railway station shortly after his death. And the spy theory? It fell apart. Abbott hopes his findings will be publicly verified. The Somerton Man, now believed to be Carl Charles Webb, was not a spy, but a man from Victoria who died alone one day on a beach. His story was, at its heart, an intimate tragedy. The last mention of Webb in the historical record dates to April 1947, when he left his wife. In October 1951, 3 years after the Somerton Man's death, Dorothy placed a notice stating she had begun divorce proceedings for desertion. By then, Dorothy had moved from Melbourne to Butte, a town about 140 kilometers northeast of Adelaide. Abbott and Fitzpatrick believe Webb had serious mental health problems and that he went under after losing 4 close relatives in 7 years. His history and the autopsy findings suggest he died by suicide, poisoning himself. And now the myth unravels. That boy with the identical ear, the supposed proof of a secret bond. In a twist of the story, Robin Thompson, long thought to be the Somerton Man's son, turned out to have no DNA link at all. He was not his son. The case's most famous coincidence was exactly that, a coincidence. So we have a name, we have a life. An engineer who lost his family, who lost his wife, who vanished from every record. But remember how we began, an open loop. Because even with a name, there are questions that remain. Authorities had not verified the result, but declared themselves cautiously optimistic that this may represent a breakthrough. There is still work to reinterpret, with public record information, the case's strangest clues. The final words of a Persian poem in his pocket, and what looked like a wartime code scrawled in a book. The code has never been deciphered. No one knows for certain why his labels were cut. And no one has fully explained what Carl Webb, a man from Melbourne, was doing dead on a beach hundreds of kilometers from home, with 2 Persian words hidden in his pocket. Tamam Shud. It is finished, and yet it is not quite finished at all.